Good morning to you. Happy Sunday. I hope you're well this morning. We're going to look again at David's flight from Jerusalem. And as you will have read chapter 16 of 2 Samuel and chapter 17, I'm sure you have, there were several people who changed sides while David was fleeing from Jerusalem. People perhaps who decided for one reason or another that it was expedient that Absalom had the upper hand. David was on his way out. David was older, weaker, less able to control. He couldn't control his own son. Now was the moment. Everything seemed to be going Absalom's way. And now was the moment to change sides, be opportunist for lots of reasons. And I'm not going into all of them, but I'm going to pick up the story of one whose name is quite difficult to say, but let's hope we can say it successfully, Ahithophel. Now, Ahithophel just appears out of nowhere. He was with David. It says so in 16 verse 23. It says, "Now in those days the counsel which Ahithophel gave was as if one consulted the oracle of God. So was all the counsel of Ahithophel esteemed, both by David and by Absalom." Ahithophel was in the heart of David's household. A very important man, in much favour with David, but he changed sides. When Absalom, things began to go Absalom's way, he changed sides. And it says in chapter 15, verse 31, "And it was told David, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, O Lord, I pray thee, turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness." Now, who was he? Why did he change sides? He had served David faithfully for many years. Why did he change sides? And I think there is a strong indication of it as we look at this. When we get to chapter 17, 1-3, it is Ahithophel. Firstly, it's Ahithophel who has advised Absalom to take in public on the rooftop the 10 concubines that were left by David. "Go into your father's concubines whom he's left to keep the house, and all Israel will hear that you've made yourself odious to your father, and the hands of all who are with you will be strengthened." This was his advice. So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the roof, and Absalom went into his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. Now, doesn't that sound very like the story of David on the roof looking across and seeing Bathsheba? He took her in secret, but Ahithophel advised that Absalom take the 10 concubines publicly so that everybody knew that he had taken from his father what he had no right to, that he'd humiliated his father, and that he how powerful he had become. Why did he do that? Stay with me for a few moments, because when we look, it's a little bit complicated, but when we look at 2 Samuel 23:34, hidden in the list of names and genealogies is a little verse that says, Eliam, the son of Ahithophel. Eliam, the son of Ahithophel. And when we are first introduced to Bathsheba in 2 Samuel 11, and David wondered who she was, this beautiful woman was, it says, David sent and inquired, and one said, "Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" So Bathsheba was Eliam's daughter, and Eliam was Ahithophel's son. So Bathsheba was Ahithophel's granddaughter. it begins to make some kind of sense. That Ahithophel wanted revenge over David for what he did to his granddaughter and his grandson-in-law, I suppose it was, when Uriah was killed. So that act with Bathsheba had another far-reaching effect for David, and it explains why Ahithophel told Absalom, put a tent on the roof and take all those concubines, sleep with them all, let the whole world see the shame of David, because he was remembering what had happened to his granddaughter Bathsheba and what David had done. You know, festering, it's another festering sore that David didn't even realize was there. In the heart of Ahithophel was a deep-seated hatred for David, for the humiliation he had brought upon his house, for the way that he'd taken Bathsheba, the way he had killed her husband. And he did it. He got Absalom to be his pawn and to do his dirty work for him. And then he says, I'm going to take 12,000 men and I'm going to pursue David tonight. I'm going to chase him and give you the kingdom. I'm going to get rid of the king. I will strike down the king only, it says in 2 Samuel 17, and I will bring all the people back to you as a bride comes home to her husband. You seek the life of one man and all the people will be at peace. That was his advice to Absalom. Let's get rid of the king and the kingdom is yours. The people will follow you. Ahithophel was getting revenge. We have to be very, very careful about harbouring grudges. These were long-seated grudges that were held against David. And you wouldn't know that when you just read the story of Ahithophel and you don't realise the connection that he had with Bathsheba and why he gave that advice to Absalom. He wanted David to know what it felt like to have his women taken by his son. He wanted him to feel the humiliation, the jealousy, the rage that he had felt on Uriah's behalf and on his own behalf towards the actions of David against Bathsheba. It's very human. These responses are very human. And the Bible does not hide. It doesn't put it in plain sight. Sometimes we have to search the scriptures. Sometimes we really have to delve to find out why people did the things that they did. But this was a long-seated upset that David didn't even realize was lying there in the heart of Ahithophel. He had acted a part for years, and when the opportunity came, he took it in both hands and changed sides to bring the downfall of this dreadful king who had committed adultery with his granddaughter and changed the course of his family's life altogether. Revenge is ugly. Some people say revenge is sweet. It's not. It's ugly. It's ugly, and it changes people. It's something to be aware of. Let's take heed to the warning and not harbour grudges. Take heed to the warning of Scripture. That's what the Old Testament stories are given to us as a warning, as something to respond to. Have a great day. Have a great day. I love searching the Old Testament, as you probably have realised. And I love these stories of David because they're so human and they're so beautiful and they teach us so very much. Have a great day. God bless you. Bye-bye.